Good morning. Good morning. So glad to be here. Almost didn't make it, but I find that I can't do without my show. So, who am I? Who am I? And what is this show? Well, I used to think of it as a thesis presentation. It's almost like it's kind of like a personal who am I project. An oral meditation, a daily oral meditation that I do. But actually, I do have my thesis statement, I suppose. I believe that all of our problems are caused, or pretty much caused, by our misunderstanding of the situation we're embedded in and the equipment that we are driving. Not understanding the paradigm that we're actually embedded in. A wholeness matrix, well, who am I? Who am I as a powerful creator? Who am I as an individual person? That's for you to decide. I'm not going to help you decide that, but so what do I do with this? Like I said, I was sleeping like 10 minutes ago, so who am I? What's the whole point of the show? What's the meaning of the show? Well, I try to get into a state of consciousness where it's just streaming, what do you call that? A stream of consciousness show where I get into a non-resistant psychological space and start talking about certain things about us. The main gist of the show is sort of a marriage of unified physics and law of attraction. But since that's kind of, that's a lot of people don't know how to put their head around that. So let's dial in right there. Law of attraction meets unified physics. So let's take a look at both of those, because actually those are the two sides, the two aspects of the show that I discuss all the time. One of them has to do with the, philosophy and psychology of being a human being and meaning of your emotional guidance scale and all of that, and your binary configuration, your vibrational basic nature, your two swirling vortices of mind, your specific individual self and your source energy mind, both of them being these swirling discs of attraction. One, a very large one, very steady, relentlessly positive and forward-looking, and connected to all the rest of the field, expanding and moving forward, and collecting cooperative components to all of its desires. And the other one, your specific you, is either going along with it by being positive too in some way, or clashing with it by going negative and then creating a vortex of your own that's kind of in conflict with this constant, steady source one that's always going. So are you flowing with your source, or are you clashing with it? That's basically that kind of question. So there's that aspect of the discussion. And then the other aspect of the discussion is the quantum physics, the unified physics. So I wanted to say quantified. Unified physics, unified quantum physics. Which, by the way, our conventional commercial physicists, because I'm going to call them commercial physicists, we aren't a oneness like we used to be, with the collective generally knowing, well, we do have a collective, but our commercial physicists have not embraced the mathematics of Nassim Haramein and his unified explanation. So you have law of attraction on the one side, you've got unified physics on the other side, and somewhere in the middle, somewhere embedded in the middle of all of that structure is you. And somehow being able to see the framework of this can really help steady you on, help you be more peaceful, help you be more gently cooperative with the world, less resistant to, and even the bad that we think is bad. We're so dramatic about everything. We don't have to take everything so hard, and we shouldn't take everything so hard. Life would be a lot better if we would emphasize all of the joy, sort of de-emphasize instead of catastrophizing and dramatizing all of the bad. We do that because we think that by doing that, it will highlight it, we'll recognize that's bad, that's not me, and we'll turn away from it, and ultimately it will be out of our lives. And there's some truth to that, and over time, maybe that is what's going to happen. Maybe that's something, that's us doing it all together, like we're not there until we're all there, sort of thing. I don't know. Anyway, so the unified physics aspect, which we can discuss, and I don't know, every day I don't know coming in here which one I'm going to feel like talking about more. The unified physics that will free us from fossil fuels, and gravity, so that our transportation systems and our distribution systems, all of the stuff that moves around the planet, doesn't have to be trucking along with their weight pressing down on physical roads that we have to keep replenishing and replenishing and replenishing. They kill the wildlife that try to cross the roads. The circulation of the planet in general is very much adversely affected by the way that our transportation system is. So gravity, that will free us from gravity, and what's going to free us from fossil fuels. And not just, we won't have to have. Do you think that a dragonfly has to dig up oil and refine it in order to power her flight? All of the rest of the living world does not use external energy sources in order to ambulate in big ways. Creatures that go very fast, creatures that weigh many tons, creatures that... Now, granted, we are creating technologies external to ourselves, and we think that that's why, we have to fuel them some way. And we do. I'm not facing reality. But I do know that there's a better way. I do know that there is an almost, for all practical intents and purposes, it's an infinite source of energy that is literally everywhere. I know that that is true. I also know that there are frequencies everywhere. And there are also really, really, really good ideas everywhere. And I also know that it is possible to create an over-unity device. Or at least I believe that. I believe it. Have I ever seen an over-unity device? No, but I have seen information from more than one direction, and you know what? It makes sense. There's a documentary, and I used to post it in the description of my video. For the last few days, I've been putting, not ironically, I guess it's not ironically, but I have been putting the description of my video in the description of my video instead of just a links list. But you don't have to go very far back in the past. Pick any of my old videos, and there's a links list. I even, in the last one or two, I got in if you find one and it's fairly recent, I only did it recently, black field with white lettering. So it's different than the other ones, which were a white backdrop with black lettering, which is, normal, customary paper and white instead of the computer black field with the white. I find with my eyesight that works better for my eyesight these days. I'm losing my eyesight, which I would love to find a solution for that, by the way, and I'm open for it. I really do have lots of avenues in my thinking brain where I could believe different ways that my eyesight could be fixed, including, more mechanical ways where, we figure out how to get the tacky, sticky, whatever that's building up on the back of my macula. I do not have wet macular degeneration or dry. I have Stargardt's disease. But I don't process vitamin A properly, and there's a tacky buildup going on the back of my macula. And my macula, if you look at my eyes, they look like moonscapes. Photographs of my macula with craters, and looks like it's crazy. And I'm finding little islands in between there to hit so that I can focus and still see. And when I can see and where I can see, and when the light's good, I can see pretty well. But I'm losing fields of my vision. So if anybody out there ever hears this, if I'm still alive, of course, I don't know how you then find a current video and comment on it. Nobody ever comments on my videos, so hopefully that would get to my attention. I don't have a very big base. Someday I might, but I might be dead by that time. I am recording all these things, so they'll be here forevermore. But everybody's recording now, and nobody has the hours and hours and hours to listen back. But, I listen to people. I like to have things, I like to have a layer of, I either do it in the form of streaming over on Netflix or Paramount Plus or Amazon or one of those. So I'm listening to Frasier or different things I get in the mood for. I've been streaming Next Generation Star Trek. I can only take so much of that. They get a little Borgy at one point. They haven't gotten there yet. And some of the shows are very imaginative. Or I listen to Abraham or Bashar, or occasionally I listen to music if I feel like dancing. Sometimes I get a little less pensive, a little more dancey. Anyway, why does any of this matter? It doesn't matter. I guess the show is Who Am I? And I am the host. And I'm your host, Amelie Starchild. And at some point, people are, if they're really starting to take me seriously, might be interested in my backstory a little bit. Who the hell is she? That she says these things that she says she thinks she knows. Well, some things I think I know, and some things I know, and some things I believe, and some things just are curious to me, and they fit together in a particular way, and it just feels right. What am I doing in this show? Well, I came across the concepts fairly recently. Nassim and his mathematics, I met, my mind and his thoughts met right before the pandemic, I believe. 2019, 2018. I'm not sure exactly. It was maybe 2017, because I remember finding the movie, The Connected Universe, and just feeling, Oh, isn't that beautiful? I felt something that excited me so much. I could just feel, ooh, I can feel what my inner being's been telling me my whole life. Putting together this big picture in a big way, you know? Yeah, the movie was made back in 2016. I met the law of attraction in 2020. It was right before the world was shut down by COVID. I met A Course in Miracles 2019, and as a matter of fact, my daughter and I were doing we had joined a study group. We really had, and weekly. It was during a period of time where she was living with me, and we were weekly going to, and then later she wasn't living with me and she continued to go for a minute. Is this true? Yeah, she was dropped off at the house and then she'd spend the night and we'd go do the study group. And it was cool. We did that for quite a few weeks. We met at a local community center with a group of people that would get around in a circle, and what A Course in Miracles is it's a series of it goes for 365 days. There's 365 lessons, and they build on each other. And you only look at today's lesson today, and you do what it says to do about how you think about a perspective or a like. Let me just find an example. Wow. I went and looked at it. You can go to A Course in Miracles. There's a free thing online, and it'll take you through. I mean, the whole thing is laid out. I'd go straight to the workbook instead of, you can read the damn thing, but it's 1,000 pages and just, I'd just go to the lessons and do the daily lessons. There's one every day. And it sort of helps you deconstruct it helps you discern you from the environment. Because the environment around you does not on its own mean what you think it means. And actually, they teach you that it doesn't mean anything. It teaches you that you are the one who is assigning all the meaning to everything, which actually kind of means that you're the one that means something. I'm the one that means something. And because I am part of the world, then of course the world means something. But when I'm gazing out at the world, I have to realize that the world doesn't mean anything. I'm the one assigning the meaning. And so you could argue with me about that. The world does too mean something. Well, yes, it does end up, it ends up working out that way. As a matter of fact, it ends up working out that way better than the way we usually manage that. Yes, the world means something, but no, the world doesn't mean anything. You're the one that does. And how you assign the meaning and is declaring unto the universe who you are. So, like I said, every day I have to decide which side of this equation I feel like leaning into. Do I want to talk about the law of attraction side, or do I want to talk about the unified physics side? Or do I want to figure out how to talk about where the hell these two of these meet one another? At some point, I suppose I could, if I exhaust and the whole class completely understands both sides of the equation, we can start exploring, what it means. Well, we're not there yet. Which one am I going to talk about? Sometimes I kind of bounce back and forth. Who am I? There are laws of the universe. The universe is knowable in a way. I said that the universe is knowable, yes, in a way, but then it isn't knowable. In other ways. I'm not trying to take the mystery out of it, or the beauty or the mystery or the magic out of it. Quite au contraire. from this perspective, the magic comes alive. Do you know what your imagination really is? Your imagination is downloads from your higher self. And so is everyone else's. And so all of the works of fiction everywhere, and you can see it like there's a whole world of streaming out there, and it's like streaming consciousness as we select the things that we want to stream with and think about, So my husband watches an awful lot of television. He doesn't watch, commercial television, so he is not bombarded by many commercials. He is bombarded a little bit of that when he goes to sports. But for the most part, he isn't exposed to much commercial television. Sports and Jeopardy and Food Network. Those are the main three things that we watch. But he watches a lot of magic stuff, and he watches a lot of anime. And we both watch. We watch stuff about the supernatural. There's, time travel is always an interesting, if somebody, so like things like, and period pieces, and throw that, so that's like Outlander would be like all of that rolled together. Well, not magic. We watched one recently that was about Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor, and it had witches and stuff in it, so it was different than than what we learned at school. Actually, I didn't learn much about that period of history from school, but I've always been interested in it, and the way I study history is I read historical fiction about the time that interests me, which lets me engage my imagination in a pleasant and easy way to imagine the time period. And then if I do adjacent time periods or adjacent countries or, aspects of the world, or try to imagine how it comes together and such, then I can put the whole picture together. Now, you don't dial it in really specific. You put it together in a general way. Put the whole thing together in a general way. And then you dial in specific, so you have to get it in alignment in a big way. Who we are and what the structure of our consciousness means, and the framing between your individual self and situation and the whole self and situation. And just kind of get it all into general alignment. What's this situation? Where does reality come from? How is the manifestation manifesting? The rolling manifestation, how is it manifesting? How do I get what I want, in this world? Well, I believe that the key to all of this, and it's not just I believe, I could say it stronger than that. I could just say the key to all of this, some people are, I know that my daughter always hated it when I tried to say anything with conviction, pronouncing it as truth. Instead of just being able to disconnect that and seeing it as truth for me, she always was trying to make me change what I was saying, soften it so that I wasn't pronouncing it as truth for everybody. Well, I can pronounce it as truth for everybody if I want to, but when you take it, you can just take it as, well, that's what she's saying and that's what she's seeing. You don't have to take it. Maybe she had a harder time because I'm her mother. And so she always, it was going down more holy for her, and she was, but maybe that was her problem. Anyway, there's things I believe, and there's things I think, and there's things that I know. And it's possible that all of the things even that I think, well, it doesn't matter. Let's not get too esoteric here. The question is, who am I? The unified physics, let's talk about that for a minute, because maybe you're just a layperson and don't have any idea about the physics situation going on out there. So this is an interesting, I don't think I've ever quite had this discussion with myself. So let me see if I can set it out for the world in layman's terms, in absolute layman's terms, maybe in a way where somebody who has never thought about physics before, because they're so sure that all the scientists out there, surely they understand everything they need to understand. Look at the technology we've got. Look at the 20th century that they brought us. They know everything, right? They are on it. Well, yes and no. What they know, they do know, and they know it very well. And they're very, very accurate with what it is they know. That's how come the great big heavy planes full of hundreds of precious cargo, bundles of precious cargo, us, takes off, a million times a day, maybe not a million times a day, but millions of miles every day, these big things flying through the air, land mostly safely. Our instruments, we understand, radar, our military equipment, we're good, right? But there is a disconnect in the understanding in commercial physics. This misunderstanding was cleared up on the edges of thought in 2012. And the papers were published and everything. And the people who published the papers, who understood the impact of what they were looking at and what they were publishing, sat back and waited for the world to change. And here it's been 12 years, and it hasn't changed all that fast. It's been changing slowly, especially for them, because since 2012, I'm sure there has been, well, I know there has been lots and lots of things going on at the International Space Federation and Taurus Tech and the Resonance Science Foundation. I believe still, at least, the Resonance Science Foundation is at least still a website. There's all this presence, and these people. There's laboratories working on stuff, all kinds of possibilities of potential understandings to come from these technologies. Everything from anti-aging, as you recognize how to keep coherence within the cell structure. Because what we're really talking about is coherence. How does reality cohere? How does it come together to create reality? Where is reality coming from? It's not just coming from nowhere. Well, when you look into the very, very, very world of the very small, you peer into the forces that hold the atom together, the structure, the internal structure of the atom, all of the Plancks, and the extremely strong bonding of those Plancks together with the protons, all of the subatomic structures being held together within the structure of the atom, with the electrons whirling around and the mass of the atom at the center. And all of the forces, the strong force, the weak force, gravitational forces, and electromagnetic fields. That's what physics is looking at. They're looking at all of these things, trying to figure out whatever. So when you look at the inside of the atom, the gravitational forces within the atom, it's the density of the Planck structure within the atom is 10 to the 93. It's really, 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 really dense. And outside in the cosmological world, The cosmological density is 10 to the minus 30 when you look at it from the outside. It seems to be an enormous disconnect. And actually it's called the what is it called? The vacuum, no. What is that called? I have it here. It would be here. The vacuum catastrophe? Is that what it's called? Quantum gravity and the holographic mass. Let's see. Origin of spin. Quest for the Higgs boson. Consideration of torsion and Coriolis effects in Einstein field equations. The role of vacuum structure in a revised bootstrap model of the GUT scheme. There's fundamental dynamics of black hole physics. A scaling law for organized matter in the universe. Oh, this is so fabulous. Spinners, twisters, quaternions, and a scale unification, a universe scaling law for organized matter. No, I must have passed it before. It's the Schwarzschild proton. Quantum gravity and the holographic mass. Let's see, plasma flow, unified physics and the information network of awareness. Because see, his mathematical descriptions of the relationship between, for instance, the forces holding the particles, the subatomic particles together within the structure of the atom, for instance, and gravity. What was I going to say about that? Unified physics and the information network of awareness, resolving the vacuum catastrophe, a generalized holographic approach. It's called the vacuum catastrophe. Unified space memory network, the electron and the holographic mass solution. Yeah, it's breathtaking, and it's correct, and it works backwards and forwards and inside and out. And tens of thousands of people have read his papers. I'm looking at the, where am I? I'm at researchgate.net. And you can probably, if you go to researchgate.net, and plug in search for Nassim Haramein, spelled Nassim Haramein. You'll see all those papers. And he's done the math. They sat back and waited for the world to change, and it didn't change right away. But it's changing. It's sort of like when when quantum physics was first recognized back in the early 20th century and the 20s. It was known at the time that it would change the world, but it didn't change it overnight either. It took a little while for the 20th century to get going, but it brought us an understanding of electromagnetic fields. And that is why your phone works and your TV works and all it's all of that. But there's enormous limits to what it understands. It really still doesn't understand gravity. When it talks about gravitons and stuff, there's no such thing as gravitons. Although I don't know how Nassim Haramein would explain their concept of a graviton, whether we really do have to throw that concept out. Gravity is coming from the fact that the fundamental nature of the field is that when it organizes into what we call matter, what that organization is spin. It is spin. There is no mass without spin. There's no Its spin is fundamental. It's baked into the cake. Now I'm sitting here looking at it's funny, I'm sitting here looking at a website, imagining that I'm looking at it with you two. You're still looking at my rainy woods. It's just raining in the woods there. Obviously is not real woods. Looks like AI reproduction of some sort. You can tell the difference. We shouldn't be afraid of AI, by the way. We shouldn't be afraid of anything. If we would relax and get into a place where we were not operating by fear, and we really don't need to operate by fear. If we would just drop our fear, and if pigs could fly, one way that we will drop our fear is by understanding what our fear is. And I'm very, very grateful to Abraham for, in a very abstract and matter-of-fact way, in a way that I could extrapolate the mathematical abstract of this. She has taught me that the structure of the inner being and the vibrational nature of the world, and helped me to understand the meaning of my positive and negative emotions from a mechanical perspective. Mechanical in the sense that where your negative emotions are coming from, your negative emotions are actually not you. It's not that they aren't telling you something about the world around you, possibly something that you might need to, a condition that you might want to improve, perhaps. And the condition, in a way, if you're playing with the clay, the condition is always the target. But you've got to be clever enough to understand that you've got to understand how it works and understand that it's vibrational. And so if you really want to affect the condition, you have to be smarter than the average bear. No, that's not true. You can't go at it directly, though. You have to be more clever. Know that the vibration is primary. Your feelings about it are of primary interest. Take your eyes off the conditions and put your eyes upon your feelings. Put your eyes on your mechanics, on the structure of yourself. Put your eyes, take them off the condition and put it onto yourself and onto your emotion. Just for a minute. Make the condition go away and you're just looking at your feelings. Now, we're going to go to, how far am I in? I'm 38 minutes in, and I'm going to move to this slide. This is the emotional guidance scale. It's a spectrum of energy. And the reason, let's start from the top. Those are pretty high-flying, elated, very light kinds of feelings, right? Really good, light feelings. You're feeling very light. Now, you're going to get a little heavier. You go from contentment is light enough. You're not dragged down. You're content. But it's not flying up higher than that, and you're not really dragged out. You're not feeling weighty. By the time you get to boredom, it's starting to feel a little heavier. But these are still, there's not a lot of momentum going on here. So you go from high momentum, and the momentum of the positive slows down till you get to contentment. And then now a negative momentum has started. It's pretty low negative momentum. Now that one starts getting going. Now the visual picture of that would look something like this, right? With that slowdown in the center. And then it picks up a negative momentum. Here's another visual picture of that. I don't know that I would have chosen these colors. They used blue for the negative, and maybe that's true. Maybe it's yellow light, and then we're headed for white. And down, depression is actually blue. I'm feeling blue. I guess that is true, isn't it? I just like blue. Blue feels peaceful to me, and red feels agitated to me. But in any case, the visual picture of the momentum of these coils it's the emotional guidance scale. And it helps tell you where you are on this continuum of anything above wherever you are is source. Source calling you. Source calling you feels like the one right above where you are. So if you are deeply in fear and being paralyzed by fear, feeling angry, fear or depression, feeling angry is an improvement. It is the call of source. But like Abraham points out, if you're in depression and you pull from depression and get yourself into anger, the people around you, they don't like that. They don't like that move. And if they don't understand what you're doing, they don't help call you through that. Call you through the fear and on up the scale until you can find yourself again. Because who you really are is actually a positive self. And if you were in any kind of state of your life where you were in contact with your happy self, with any kind of frequency, you would already know that. Now, it's funny, when you find your different selves, it seems almost that you've been there forever. When you go to the place where you are in despair, you feel like this is where I keep coming back to this. I've always been in, this truth has always haunted me, and you feel like that is forever. I am always this way. I am always this way. You feel like, but it's not true. Well, the negative one isn't true. The positive one, on the other hand, in the background is always true, because your positive self is always running in the background. You are your two sides. Now, I hate this picture. I always say I hate this picture. I have a lot of conflicted energy when it comes to this picture. I should find it a better one. And I don't know why I'm resistant to doing that, but this does kind of show it. Even if this one was sharp and clear, it would be better. But when I blew it up, then it stayed not clear. Maybe I should take a picture of it small and blow it. No, I blew it up in the OBS studio. I think that's where it lost its clarity. I don't know. But you are these two selves. You are a binary system. A binary system. And part of you is your conventional physical self banging around in the physical world. Connected to all the other we're a field phenomenon. We are not, you can't actually separate us from the planet that we're on and the people that we are a part of. We are actually humanity. We are one being pedagogically moving its way through time. We are growing up. We have been in our adolescence. We don't need to look back at the mistakes we have made in the past and say, oh, that's what we've done, so that's what we will always do. Does a 2-year-old say that? Oh, I used to write on the walls with crayons, so I must always do that forevermore. I used to pull my sister's hair out by the clumpfuls when she pissed me off, and I must always do that. No, we are pedagogically maturing, and we have been in our infancy and in our adolescence and in our what's right after adolescence? Teenagership. But I don't know how to say that as a noun. Our teenagership. We are coming to a place where the one of the reasons we're different now is because we are wired together, we are more obviously realizing our oneness in this picture. And then all the information that we have been amassing and accumulating, and plus history, which is the movie that we're moving through, it's all coming together. And so we can know ourselves now, know who we are. We are amazing creatures. Now, I say this very quietly from an insignificant looking life, but I promise you my life is not insignificant. And you know what? You don't have to be loud and big and splashy to be enormous. All of you out there who are just living normal, ordinary lives, it is for you to understand your own magic and your own preference. I actually don't want to live a hyper busy life. I have other ways that I have ambitions about how I would like to see the rolling manifestation around me move in different ways. I want to do it on my terms. I want to do it with complete ease and flow. I value alignment far above momentum, although I do value momentum, but I'm doing it my own way, and I apologize to no one, although it sounds like I'm apologizing here. If she knows so much, why isn't she queen of the world? Well, I'm happy enough, actually. I am finding the universe inside of the small, and the big and the small and the small and the big. And that's literally the name of the game. The structure of this universe is the very small nested inside the very big. The universes are nested like Russian dolls. Black holes all the way up and all the way down, from the very, very teeny weeny small proton, which is a black hole, spelled W-H-O-L-E. Well, I only had a singular, so I can't put an S on that. In the Planck field of every proton is reflected all of the information of all of the rest of the protons in all of the universe. You can look at the structure of the universe and extrapolate from that the diameter, the radius of a proton. It works backwards and forwards and inside and out, and it's scaling. It's scaling like factors of, it's like, and our understanding of this structure helps us understand consciousness, helps us understand who we are from the inside out. And law of attraction helps us understand that too. Now, law of attraction is only one of 5 laws, but as far as I can see, it's the only one of the 5 laws that there's any action from us involved. The rest of it is just all saying, this is how it is, baby. Suck it up, buttercup, because you can't change these things. There's nothing you can do to change these things. The first one is you exist. And because you exist, you do exist. Here you are. You can never not exist, because now that you are in existence, non-existence, well, I listened to Bashar say that one, and it gives me a headache. So I don't want to give you a headache. So I won't belabor you with his circular logic about how you can't not exist, because by definition non-existence does not exist. But anyway, you exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. I actually believe that. You have claimed an individuation of spin of your own. You have claimed it, and you own it forevermore. You have a front row seat to the parade of life forever, evermore. It's your mind's eye. You have your mind's eye forevermore. There's nothing you can do to change that. You commit suicide, you'll open your eyes right back up and go, oh, I'm still here. That's interesting. I just lost my avatar and I've changed my position on the grid. And oh, okay, I got it. Back to it. Most of the time you'll probably choose to, at some point or in some way, come back into another life form, because that's what the fun is. We're supposed to be having fun. Did you know that? So anyway, I'm going to go to a different... I don't want to just rest on these pictures. I'm going to rest on more beautiful pictures in the background. So the laws of the universe. There's only one actionable. You exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. There is nothing you can do to change that. The one is all. The all are one, and the one is all. It's all one thing. There's nothing you can do to change that. What you put out is what you get back. That's the one actionable one. That's the one where you have anything to do with anything, where you have any say about what you get. What you put out is what you get back. And that happens vibrationally. Forget about it in terms of, goody two-shoes. If you aren't doing overtly service-oriented activities, know that if you would but line up with your positive self and follow your happy, lighted, blissful self without worrying about everybody, all of the people suffering far away from you, the ones you can't see, or the ones that you don't have direct contact with. If you end up having direct contact with someone who's suffering, I think at that moment it would be very helpful to tune into your inner being right at that moment and see what kind of, because your inner being knows that you do not like to be suffering adjacent. We are sensitive to one another's pain for a number of reasons. First of all, we are a field phenomenon. And it means that we're that you can't really accurately tell where exactly the molecules and the electrons and the things that are me. There is a general field that's mostly me, but I'm swapping subatomic particles with everything around me all the time. I am swapping subatomic particles with the desk and the air and the chair, and it's hard to... I'm a vibrational self centered here in me, but it's really hard to separate me from the rest of the field, and there is a perspective, a dimension where you can't separate them. And then there's all kinds of other ways. So there's so many ways to look at yourself. Oh, by the way, the last law is everything changes except for the laws. There's nothing you can do to change that. So what you put out vibrationally is what you're going to get back vibrationally. And you're vibrating not only, so you're emanating a signal from every part of you. You're a carnal engine, and you're putting out why do I always say geothermal? Thermal, a thermal energy signature that can be read with equipment that you could probably buy at Lowe's, certainly at Radio Shack. Well, I don't think that exists anymore. But some kind of tech store. At the tech store. You could buy it at the tech store on the interwebs. You could buy equipment that, infrared, night binoculars. I'm crazy. So you're putting out this signature, but your feelings are a big part of your signature. Your feelings are letting you know whether you're flowing with your true self, your continuum self, your cooperative self with the rest of the field self, whether you're flowing with that or whether you're I had a really good word earlier that I was really enjoying how it described clashing. Are you clashing with it? Are you flowing with it or are you clashing with it? It's positive. What are you? Now, you've come across a condition that you don't prefer, and of course it's causing you to feel uncomfortable. It's fair that you want that condition to change. There are people starving, perhaps, or there's war, or the ecosystem's being damaged, or somebody's being mean to animals. That's the one that gets me. I remember watching The Green Mile in a crowded theater, and I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. There's plenty of cruelty to human beings alluded to and kind of told about. But the one place where the audience absolutely lost their crap, well, everybody gasped, audibly gasped quite loudly when this guy stomped on the smart, sweet mouse friend of the one inmate on the death row. Everybody, they lost it. They cannot stand cruelty to animals. That's the one that gets me. And so when I see that sort of thing, of course, I don't like it and I don't want it. I want things to be different than that. I want a kinder, more peaceful world. That is the target of my intention, all of my intention and all of my being. Forevermore, for the rest of my life, will be in some way to figure this out and help us all cohere in a more peaceful, more loving, more kind and flowing way. Now, I have a belief about this. I think that the way to this is for everyone to do precisely what their heart, their true desire calls them to do. And there are other philosophies. Now, this is what I think is messing us up. There are other people who believe that the way that we get to a more peaceful society is for everybody to deny their greedy, selfish, wrong desires, sublimate your desire, and do what's right for the rest of the group, or some such. Follow the rules. You don't be following your desires. Sublimate your desire and do, what's right instead, or some nonsense. How the hell would you know what's right if you don't have a guiding star? So what's my guiding star now? Since I've thrown out my desire, instead of trying to figure out how to teach a person to get their desires into alignment with the rest of the field and be beneficial within their own desires so that then they can follow their own guiding star, that light from within that tells them what they want. Instead, if you get them to throw that out, now how do they guide? They have to guide by the rules written down on paper that you hand them in the church or whatever. This is what you must do. Do what we say. This is what is right and good and will make a better world. But that's not true. You're not supposed to sacrifice yourself for the group. That makes a whole different spirit of group. What you want everyone to do is be themselves for the whole. Don't sacrifice yourself for the whole. Understand that you are an integral, and I use that word advisedly, you are an integral part of the whole. An integral member of this thing that this oneness that we are all participating in. Who am I? And what's the meaning of my negative emotions? My negative emotions mean that I have taken a thought. This is all your negative emotion means. It doesn't necessarily mean, so it actually does mean more than that. But it does mean this absolutely. The sensation that you feel, that you call the sensation of a negative emotion is the result of you in your small self, your specific, conventional, expirational, meat vehicle self, brain and skull self, have chosen to take a thought about, so you see a condition and you don't like the way that feels. Fine, you don't have to like what you're looking at. But now, true negative emotion is being caused by the thoughts you're taking about that condition. The thoughts that you are taking about the condition are clashing with the thoughts that your inner being, the understanding, your inner being understands something about the situation that you perhaps are not getting. Especially if it does anything, because you're allowed to have a hit of negative emotion. You're allowed to have a sensation of, I witnessed that and I do not like that. That's fair. There's nothing, you cannot like that. And it can be absolutely justified. It can be something that you are justified in your desire to change the condition even. But there is something that your inner being understands about it that you may not understand about it. And if you would get into I just got a sense of this. If you are not in your positive self, then you aren't being who you really are. Your positive self recognizes all the negative self. The negative self does not see the positive self. Do you see the difference? In your positive self, you can see who you were when you were negative. You can see that and you can go, oh, I get that. I absolutely get that. But when you are in your negative self, you cannot see your positive self. You're not your whole self in your negative self. You're only a piece of yourself. And although that piece of yourself, in a way, is not wrong, and it is, you have to find where you are not wrong. You cannot, because if you can't find where you aren't wrong, then you're throwing your whole self away. And that's not a way to inner peace. Throwing your whole self away is absolutely not the path to inner peace. So who am I in all of this? When you go into meditation, when you do meditation, what you are literally doing as you go deeper and deeper within the layers of yourself, as you release your resistance and fall into the center of the center of the center of yourself, you're finding your way back to the place where we all are. At the center of the center of the center, at that original spin point. So, like, think of yourself as this. You are two spins. You are your original spin, and everyone is that. You are that spin. That is source. That is your source spin. That is the source of all things. It's your energy source. It's where, where all life is coming from, is that place. It's where all the motion of everything, where all the motion of all of the universe is coming from. All of the galaxies spinning and all of the solar system spinning and all of the stars becoming and be going. It's all coming from that original spin over there. And we all share that point. There is a point where we all share. It's like you can be on the other side of the universe and you are that point on the other side of the universe on the grid and the original spin point. And I am right here on this side of the universe in this position and the original spin point. It's like the point that we all share. The shared point. It's the point we all come out of. It's the original atom sort of thing. And you have that. That's your source side. And that side is relentlessly positive, moving forward, expanding, vibrating. It's vibrational. It's also learning about itself. It's also the oneness of the universe. The universe is one thing, and it's alive, and you're connected to it. You are a cell within the universe. You are a cell within the body of humanity. You are a cell here on planet Eden, planet Gaia, however you want to look at it. There's all kinds of ways to see all of these connected morphic fields of energy and information exchanging all the way up and all the way down. It's holographic, it's fractal, it's really, really cool. And you as a human being are sitting in a very blessed and privileged position because you possess a consciousness that is quite advanced and potentially illegal. Now, it's not illegal from our point of view in the sense that we did nothing wrong and no one's going to ever punish us or come in. And I don't believe that you could probably write a science fiction novel where, there are beings that, patrol the universe for these illegal GMOs, and eradicate them. You could probably write a pretty good science fiction novel about that, actually. But I think that we are genetically modified. And someone created this particular advance, blew up the neocortex, gave us this overview mind, gave us our intense human emotions, which when we understand how our vibrational self is reading the physical nature of the physical universe, and our emotions are giving us a relative read about whether we're on the right track or not, whether we're in alignment, whether we've set our thinking brain in alignment with what our greater self actually knows to be true about the universe. When we understand how to line it up that way, then we truly are wise beings. All of us are. All of us have this capability. And when we do not do this, we are foolish, destructive beings indeed. And that's why I do this show. So that, we can help figure this out in a clearer way and come together in a more joyful, playful. Bashar said something a few weeks ago. I really liked it. He talks about play, your playful nature, and you finding a state of being that is playful. When you address the universe from a playful state of being, the stuff of the universe becomes softer, more malleable, more clay-like. And so the mantra would be, play, arrow, clay. Play makes the universe more clay-like. Playful equals clay-like, or play-like is clay-like, or playful is clayful. I don't know. Play, clay. And when your state of being is harsher, when you are in a state of being where you've bristled into a negative state of any sort, you've taken up thoughts that are smaller than your inner, they would be smaller because your inner being is very large. Your inner being is in touch with the whole field around you and understands the relevant near and far to you based on all of your motions and all of everything else's motions and your desire and their desire. Your inner being understands it all. It's standing in a place where it has organized and cohered all of this information. It understands you. It understands what you want. Your inner being, I want to convince you, and then I'll play this back for myself so that I deeply understand this. Your inner being knows who you are and knows what you want and is standing at the win-win apex. And if you would listen to her vibrational calling to you, the way she's calling to you when you pick a thought that is that resonates with the kinds of things she thinks, you feel really, really good. And when you pick thoughts that are not in alignment, that are clashing with the kinds of thoughts that she thinks, you feel bad. You feel, you start on you enter the negative emotional scale. And if you cared about that, if you cared how you felt and you didn't like feeling negative emotion, you'd catch on to this way quicker. But if you are all focused on the physicality and momentum is your big thing, and you don't really care how you feel because what I feel doesn't matter. The world is the world, and I've got to sacrifice for the world. And especially if you're a boy, you have been taught that your feelings don't matter. Don't listen to them. So you don't even know how to do that. Well, I'm going to tell you that all you really need to know is if you are in any state of negative emotion, you are not listening to your higher self. Pay attention to how you feel. How you feel really does matter. It's not just your hard-nosed look at the outside world, although I promise you, you're going to get to a place where your left brain is going to have all the meat and potatoes it wants, to satisfy any man. Your left brain is going to have all of the juicy structure of thought that you want. Even when you do understand your positive and negative emotions, just don't go negative. Do not go negative and do not spin negative thought, period. It is clashing with what your inner being knows to be true about you and all the rest of the world. We are well-being. We are beings of light. Now, does that mean that I don't understand how awful it is out here on the ground, how base people really are, and how far from this ideal reality really is? Does me talking about all of this woo-woo stuff mean that I don't understand the reality on the ground? The pedophiles really are out there. There really is. Well, all of the wickedness is of our own creation. And it all comes from people in their good intentions following their negative self. And if they wouldn't do that, period, we would all be in better shape as humanity, as individuals. Your negative self is not really you. Granted, your negative self might be pointing out something that would be nice if it would change. But most people in their negative state, they aren't really understanding how the world functions in the first place, so that the changes that they wish would happen are not realistic because they're not in alignment with reality. That's another thing that I would like to help change. Help people get into alignment with reality itself so that your desires really can start becoming realistic and achievable. And we can achieve them one step at a time. Next logical step, 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 until the next thing you know, we have made a quantum leap. The thing, you can't really make those quantum leaps the reason they say quantum leap is because theoretically, it is kind of possible to make a quantum leap. But only if you see it. Only if you see that as logical. Only if you see it as the next logical step. If you see it as a quantum leap, oh my God, that is such a, from here way over to there, then you can't do it because it's too far. It's like Jerry used to say, cast your line out far enough in front of you so that it's interesting, but not so far that you don't believe it. Because if you cast it so far out that you don't believe it, now you can't get there. And if you cast it so close to you, you believe it, but it's not interesting, then you don't want to go there, and then that doesn't work either. You need to keep casting your line out far enough so that it's interesting, but not so far that you don't believe it. And the next thing you know, if you want to, you'll be at the head of an empire. I don't actually want to be at the head of an empire. I want to be empire adjacent. Very, very comfortable in a still flowing, things unfolding in a very... I don't want to order everything. I want things to flow, and I want to jump in the stream, and I guess it doesn't matter what I want. I'm not the kind of person that really wants to run a multi-billion-dollar empire, though. You get that's not how I want to spend my time. That's actually the key. I might say, oh yeah, I'd love to have $500 million and, own all this empire. Wouldn't I just love that? But maybe you aren't the kind of person who really wants that. Maybe there are other things that you want. I actually want to spend my time moving more slowly in a more of a living ecosphere, like adjacent to trees and you know what? I need to scope out what senior living facility I want to migrate to. Which one, and where do I want it to be? Oh, that's the way to do it. Don't end up 98, desperately looking for that place that you never found when you were able to move around, and now you can't move around on your own anymore, and people don't want to help enable that activity anymore. Oh yeah, that's what I need to do now. I need to start researching exactly how I want to spend my last frail years. It might take me 30 years to find the place in the first, or to develop the situation the way I want it. Very interesting. I'll have to get my husband on board with all of this. It's one of the reasons why I want our mechanical systems here at the sanctuary here to be more stable, less able to be thrown off kilter. I would like a little unit of stability, easy to care for. I don't know if you'd call my place easy to care for. But what I do like about it is trees and grass and plants that I can care for and make sure that they stay alive and beautiful and green, and that they attract nature around me, so that I can be adjacent to birds and life. I can hear it when I go outside at night. I hear the animals calling to one another, and being adjacent to life. I really understand my father's desire for that. I don't know how to give it to him. I do not know how to give it to him. He's crying out to us, and we love him, and he loves us, and I don't know how to give this to him. Because he has left it to the place where he has so many needs. And he pushed us away for so long. I don't really know exactly how to find this location. He has the money. I'm going to pray on this. And I'm going to see whether there is a solution. Whether maybe there is a solution. And then I would have to write it up in writing and send it to him as a proposition. And if he agreed to it, then maybe we go through with it. And if he doesn't agree to it, then we don't do it. Some kind of a situation where he could be cared for. I'm going to think about it. Maybe it is a project I am willing to undergo. But he has to agree to things. All right. Well, I don't need to do this on the show. I have my own personal issue that I've been struggling with the last couple of weeks. Personal. An elderly father and a desire that he has. And I was just thinking about how I absolutely understand his desire to be near trees. It's one of the things that I have really wanted to be near is trees. And I don't care about a fast life. I just care about a tight, little, secure, efficient life where I can get around and do what I want to do. Feel safe in this world. I'd like to be able to travel. I really would like to be able to travel. I would like the human travel systems to be a little better. I want to go back to Fiji. I want to go back to New Zealand. I'd like to go back to Scotland. I want to go to Canada. Never been to Canada. We need to keep going back to Mexico because we have that dang timeshare. Maybe we should start selling the timeshare every year. Sell one of them, maybe, to pay for it. I don't know. Who am I? Who am I? I've sort of gotten lost in the... Who am I? It is Stream of Consciousness. It is a Stream of Consciousness show, and I never know what we're going to be talking about. I do know that the basis of the show is law of attraction meets unified physics, and an in-depth explanation of what both of those aspects mean. And then... ultimately, the idea is to help us understand our psychology, our spirituality, ourselves as a continuum of being, ourselves as the binary unit that we are, both the individual unit and the overview unit that the individual is passing its information back up to. But you got to know that even in your small specific self, you aren't just passing your information up to the all. The all is passing its information back down to you. That's what's happening. And so you are not expendable in the sense that, it's just all for the all. And no, the all is also reflected back in you. That's the nature of this vibrational paradigm that we are swimming in. And it's very, very cool. We are blessed to be in human being vehicles. As I said before, I think we might be an illegal form because what I think somebody ignored the prime directive, the idea not to interfere with naturally evolving, naturally developing systems on planets, and somebody came onto planet Earth some 200,000 years ago, give or take, some tens of thousands of years, I don't know exactly. It would be whenever our conventional scientists say that anatomically modern humans appeared on planet Earth, and they keep trying to find the bones as the evidence of where did they come from? How did they develop? Well, the evidence is in the genetic readout. We've been genetically modified. That's what happened, and I think that their people frowned on it too. I don't think they were supposed to do that. But they did it, and hundreds of thousands of years have passed now, and they did not leave us a user's manual. Or if they did, we lost it in the last cataclysm. It might have been there in the Library of Alexandria. It might have been in some libraries in Atlantis before it got flooded. Whatever. We don't have a user's manual. We don't understand how our equipment works. We don't understand that when you feel negative emotion, feel it, acknowledge it, it's real, it's correct, there's nothing wrong with it, but now release it because the negative self is not actually you, and if you want to fix that problem, you can only fix it from your positive self. So you've gotten the information. I got the information. I understand that there's a problem in the field. But now I've got to reconnect with my positive state of being, or I do not have access to the information that will help me fix that problem. And that's the rub. Over and over and over, we try to fix our problems from a position of being gobbed up in a negative emotion about the problem. And of course that would happen. You're like, well, duh. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's almost like a design flaw. Somebody went in and genetically tweaked us, and they didn't anticipate all of the consequences. Maybe they did. I don't know. Are we a beloved? So if somebody created us, why did they create us? To be their servants? Their slaves? Are we their children? Do they consider us their children? Were we an experiment or a known formula? Do they understand how to do this? I think they understand the vibrational nature of the universe and the fact that living beings have this vibrational shadow self to them that is connecting them to the impulses of the original spin of source. That's wanting us all together. It's connecting us all. It's matrixing us together with one another, connecting us to one another. This energy field, this so who are we? Who are we? What the heck are we doing here on planet? If that's the case, if we've been genetically modified, if somebody created us, and we're coming back, we're making a comeback after the cataclysms that we've had, and we've been keeping track of it this time. We've been keeping track of history for as long as we can keep track of history. We got bombed back to the Stone Age, basically, by the floods and the ice ages and stuff. We probably knew we had higher technology and knew other things in eons past. We actually have so much more of an interesting history. Our story is so much more full, so much more interesting, so much more dramatic and fascinating and potential for discovery. We're going to have to go back and redo all of our natural history museums and all of our history of the world museums. All of that stuff, our textbooks, we're going to have to rewrite them. And you know what? All the people who run things the way they are, they don't want to change them. All the people who are selling us the textbooks the way they are now, they don't want to change them. They don't want to change it to way different. They want to incrementally add, we'll add a little bit, add a couple of things here, every couple of years, and then make everybody buy the textbooks all over again. And the old ones don't count anymore. You got to recycle those because they got a lock on us. And we're being lied to about a lot of things, but the answer is not to push back against those evil people who are plotting against us. The answer is to understand who we are and to understand this universe that we are living in and flow with it. Don't push back against things. You don't need to push back against things. You need to follow your heart. You need to follow your bliss. You need to care about what matters to you. You need to go deeply into the places where your love is and follow that. Follow the love itself. The love itself. If it leads you to place, if as you follow the love itself and you're following it through the world of physical reality, and it leads you to places where that love is making you now feel fearful or angry or frustrated or helpless or any of those kind of feelings, well, the thought that you have taken there, you need to take a different thought. Because the thought is the indicator that you're heading into troubled waters. That feeling of negative emotion, the fact that it's uncomfortable means back off. It's like touching a hot stove. It's supposed to tell you, quit touching the hot stove. But since there's a condition out there that's attached to it, and we think we have to be aligned to the condition before we're aligned to the emotion, that's what the problem is. Because we've been taught that the condition is primary and our feelings about it are secondary, and that is not the case. Our feelings are primary, and the conditions are secondary. And if we would honor our feelings first and think thoughts that feel better, but it has to be thoughts that we believe. You can't fool yourself. I'm not saying, so I might say, well, okay, then I'll just believe that the world is made out of cotton candy, and if all I have to do is just blink 3 times and everything that I want will be on my plate, I'll just believe that. That feels good. Well, no, that does not feel good, actually, because you believe that, but it doesn't happen, and that feels terrible. You need to align your beliefs up in alignment with actual reality. But nobody's been taught how to do that, because where are the arbiters of reality? Well, we got 2 arbiters of reality. One is all the religious sector, and the other one is all the scientific sector. But the problem is that they are not mutually exclusive. This world is a oneness where all of that has to jive, So now how do you do it? How does that work? Well, in my humble way, I am trying to assist, because I have been absorbing teachers for all my life. I have had my set of teachers that I have followed, absorbing them one after the other. The ones that I am with right at the moment, my favorite teachers at the moment, are Abraham and Bashar, because I like the abstract nature of this information from that point of view. Although, you can go back and tag Jesus and religions and stuff into all kinds of interesting, but you know what? They get all garbled. You need to abstract the core. What's the unchangeable sameness between us? What's the laws of the universe? What are the laws of the universe? And I actually believe them from Bashar and Abraham. Although what I see them from Bashar and Abraham, and then I understand what the religious leaders are trying to say. However, they are mixing it in with a whole lot of other stuff. They're mixing it in with human power structures and social, the flavor and color of I know there's words to describe this. It's like local ethnic flavor. There's some other stuff that gets added into it, which is different than the pure mathematics at the center of it. The abstracted mathematics at the center of this. I believe that there is mathematics that you can describe law of attraction with. Those 2 spinning disks of attraction, your source self and your specific physical HBV self, meat vehicle self, those 2 selves, the way they interact is why you have positive and negative emotions. When you and your small self come into alignment with your greater self, it feels really good. And if you had been taught to care how you feel, value feeling good, knowing that you are a better person when you feel good, that you are of more value to the rest of the world when you feel good, that when you allow yourself to keep feeling like shit as you martyr yourself for the world, that quite frankly you are not helping the world, you are making the world a more chaotic place, which may be clarifying for all of us how the structure of all of this works. Making more chaos will cause us to understand, hopefully, is that us doing that? Is that us doing that? There's plenty of teachers out there talking about law of attraction, and now there's a lot of people who are studying unified physics. It really is a thing. It's going on out there, and it is gathering momentum. the truth of these things when you line those two fields of thought up together and realize how they reinforce and support each other and how they form a framework upon which we can build the civilization of the 21st and 22nd and centuries and beyond, then you start to get excited. We don't actually have to be plugged into fossil fuels. Well, why are we then? Well, it's easy to see why we are. We are locked into fossil fuels because we have been gently guided that direction by the fossil fuel industry and allowed that to happen through our own ignorance of who we are and what source energy is, so that we can plug into damn source energy. Not damn source energy. Just plug into source energy, for crying out loud already. So where are we? 10 till 7. That's all right. And we are an hour and 35 minutes in. Fair game to shut this down if ever I want to. I almost did not come in and do this. I wanted to sleep in. I tried to sleep in. It was after 5 when I got up, but it was like, but I was on the air by 5:15. Maybe earlier than that. No, about 5:15. So who am I? Who am I? And what does all of this amount to? What it amounts to is care how you feel. Develop little or no tolerance for your own negative emotional state. You are allowed to have a moment where you notice, for just a moment, you can notice things you do not like. Don't like that. Do not rest there. Revert quickly back to your positive self, who you really are, and you will be a much better benefit. You'll be much better benefit to the world if you do that, and your own life will go smoother. So that's my biggest piece of advice. So what do you do about your negative emotion? The easiest way to do it at first is just to try to think about something else. Just think about something else. Don't try not to think about that thing that you don't want to think about. But instead, try to find the momentum of something else interesting or soothing or happiness making, and you can go on with that for quite a long time. Actually, it might be justified that you spend quite a few days, quite a few hours, maybe weeks and months, listening to sitcoms or watching cat videos or whatever it is that you have to do to get into a good positive state, where you've got a momentum of positive, so you can start recognizing, oh, this is me. Oh, this is me forever and ever. Oh, how did I lose sight of that? How did I get all balled up in this angry person? This little partial me. How did that happen? We are very, very interesting creatures, and to explore our own nature is to understand the world around us. Because we are dreaming it into place. And when we insist on focusing on the negative side and moving from our negative self and operating from our negative self, we nightmare it into place. We are the source of the demons that walk the earth. The source of it is us crossing our own energy stream, falling into states of negativity and then acting out of them, believing that is us. Who we really are is the love. Who we really are is the love. All of that other stuff is noise. And life is an exercise in you identifying This is me. This is me. This is what I like. This is what I like. This is what I like. This is what turns me on. This is what floats my boat. This is what flips my lid. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. The whole universe moves on desire. And it's only twisted desire that is of the devil. Desire that is in misalignment with understanding who you are and what the reality that you are embedded in, how it works, what the rules of the game are. There are only two directions, and forget about all the other ones. In your moving about the world, you can only be moving in one of two directions. Forward or backward. You're either facing forward or you're facing backward. And if you've gotten yourself facing backwards, you really don't want to move from that direction. You want to get yourself facing forward first and then move. When you've gotten yourself facing backwards is when you're balled up in a negative state. You're in a negative state of being somehow. You can't operate from your negative state of being. If you are in a negative state of being, quit operating. Get yourself back into a positive. Get yourself facing forward and then, put the pedal to the metal. If you're facing forward, pedal to the metal. If you're facing backwards, stop what you're doing. That's kind of it in a nutshell, and all of the gradations of that. Gently get yourself to stop, or start gently a forward momentum, or however you want to say that. But if you're facing backwards, quit trying to move. You are only digging yourself a hole. Get yourself, I see my role in my children's lives now more clearly than I have ever seen it before. The way I truly assist them is to help them get themselves facing forward again. I help them to understand who they really are and what the situation really is around them. Yes, you live in a very dangerous world. Thank you very much. There are ways there is a dimension to look at this where it is absolutely true, that the physical world that you are living in is incredibly, air quoting this, dangerous. Oh, what is this? Peaceful. Oh, no, I want to go back. Dangerous. Very dangerous. And that's true. That's absolutely true. But now let's unpack some of that. Let's assume that we live in this labyrinth filled with dangers. And behind there's many doors down the path of this labyrinth. And behind some of the doors, there's monsters. And behind some of the doors, there are treasures. And behind some of the doors are magic people with spells, and there's all kinds of stuff out there, but there's lots of monsters and dangers. There is. However, the way you keep yourself safest from these dangers is to keep your eyes and your heart open and your eyes locked onto the light. Locked onto the light. You're walking a razor's edge, people. Do not look at the demons to the right or the left of you, or you will fall into their space. And the next thing you know, you will be surrounded by demons. What does that mean? I mean, I say that, and I mean it metaphorically, of course. But there's a truth to the energy about this. There's an energy field that we create when our specific conventional self takes thoughts that cross the energy stream of the positive self that you relentlessly are. You are a positive self that you cannot turn off, that is connected to all things, that is a continuum forever. You are connected to that, and you cannot not be connected to that. You are that. And you cannot not be that. So here you are, your relentlessly positive self, shining this relentlessly positive whatever. Now you and your specific self, if you want to take a mean small thought and produce a negative field, you can. And when you do that, you cross the positive energy stream of the positive self you really are, and you create a shadow self in the field. That shadow self you then give permission to drive your car, your vehicle, your HBV, your meat vehicle. You are now walking around ambulating on your negative self. This is creating a negative field around you. And it is affecting all of us, actually. When I do it, it affects you. When you do it, it affects me. That's one of the reasons why we can't get out of each other's business, why we really affect each other in a way that... I should go see whether my husband's awake. That's one of the reasons. Another reason why we affect each other is because we have in our brains, we have something called mirror neurons. We might have them in more places than just our brains. But these mirror neurons fire whenever we witness other people experiencing things. It's why you double over when you see somebody else hitting the crotch, you know? Oh! And why you're such a good, armchair quarterback. And why you feel like that team out there on the field is us. That's us out there on the field. That's us. That's your ability to attach your sense of self, your sense of what group you belong to, what morphogenetic field you tag into. We're just really, really interesting creatures. And it would be very helpful if before we acted so damn sure and aggressively out in this world, if we would take a pause and come to understand who we really are before we act. That's what I would advise. I think that 2020 was a bit of that. There was a lot of us that kind of went back to our own corners and meditated and studied and pondered life and the universe and our place in it for many months. And have come back to the field different than we were. I know that I am different. This whole show, the fact that I am even inspired to come into the space and do this show all the time is evidence of the difference that I am. And anyway, so I'm going to wrap it up for today. I'll come back tomorrow. We have 2 aspects of the show. We will keep hammering at this, where law of attraction meets unified physics. Maybe I'll put that in the description of my video. Law of attraction meets unified physics, and see who picks up on that basis. Anyway, until tomorrow, God bless. May the source, well, actually, do I want to say it that way? Do the best you can. Care how you feel. It's all good. Well-being is really the dominant force in the universe. And until tomorrow, we'll talk about it some more. And until then, may the source be with you.